Suella Braverman has published a lengthy letter full of criticism of the Prime Minister after her sacking yesterday morning. Suella Braverman has published a lengthy letter this evening tearing chunks out of Rishi Sunak and accusing him of betrayal over key policy. The letter accuses the Prime Minister of failure and says his plan is not working. It says, "We have endured record election defeats, your resets have failed and we are running out of time. You need to change course urgently. I may not have always found the right words, but I have always striven to give voice to the quiet majority that supported us in 2019. I have endeavored to be honest and true to the people who put us in these privileged positions." Her letter, which runs to 3 pages, is Ms. Braverman's first substantive response since being sacked as Home Secretary yesterday morning. It sets out in detail, for the first time, that Ms. Braverman only accepted Mr. Sunak's offer to become Home Secretary last year as part of a 4-point deal, namely to reduce overall legal migration, exclude Stop the Boats legislation from the remit of the ECHR, deliver the Northern Ireland Protocol and retain the EU law bills in their existing form, and issue unequivocal statutory guidance to schools that protects biological sex and single-sex space. Ms. Braverman says she trusted the Prime Minister to see through all 4 points of their agreement, however over the past year has been met with equivocation, disregard and a lack of interest. She continues that if the government loses its Rwanda case tomorrow, Mr. Sunak will have wasted a year and an Act of Parliament, only to arrive back at square one. She says, "Worse than this, your magical thinking, believing that you can will your way through this without upsetting polite opinion, has meant you have failed to prepare any sort of credible plan B. I can only surmise that this is because you have no appetite for doing what is necessary, and therefore no real intention of fulfilling your pledge to the British people." The former Home Secretary also attacks Mr. Sunak's remaining authority, pointing out he only became Prime Minister thanks to her support. "It is generally agreed that my support was a pivotal factor in winning the leadership contest." Ms. Braverman goes on to slam the Prime Minister for failing to take a tougher stance on increasingly vicious anti-Semitism and extremism displayed on our streets. She said, "I have become hoarse urging you to consider legislation to ban the hate marches and help stem the rising tide of racism, intimidation and terrorist glorification threatening community cohesion. Britain is at a turning point in our history and faces a threat of radicalization and extremism in a way not seen for 20 years. I regret to say that your response has been uncertain, weak and lacking in the qualities of leadership that this country needs. Rather than fully acknowledge the severity of this threat, your team disagreed with me for weeks that the law needed changing. As on so many other issues, you sought to put off tough decisions in order to minimize political risk to yourself. In doing so, you have increased the very real risk these marches present to everyone else.